everybody, welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. My name is Stacy, this is Cheyenne, and we just wanted to come and talk just a little bit to you today about something that we feel really blessed about. Forgive us, you can probably hear cartoons running in the background. We've got littles down here at our feet eating and watching their favorite cartoon. So today we wanted to talk to you. This is August the 26th, and August the 27th is a special day for us. Cheyenne, what is August the 27th?
Rowdy's birthday.
And he'll be 2 years old. And those of you that's been with us for a while know Rowdy's story. He has an extraordinary story. He's been blessed by the Lord. And Cheyenne's going to insert some pictures along throughout here just to give you an idea of just exactly how blessed he is. Now he is on track to be like most typical 2-year-old boys. He likes to roughhouse. He likes to squeal. He's learning how to jump, and he does the best he can. He just kind of raises his arms and doesn't get his little feet up off the ground quite yet, but he's working on it. And we just wanted to kind of celebrate him today, and just really embrace the fact that we're fortunate that he's still with us. Now, when Rowdy was born, his birth story, Mom can pipe in at any time. Sometimes she's quiet, and sometimes you can't get her to be quiet. But, and I think today is one of those, I'll tell you guys, we have had an exhausting day. We're potty training, and we are, the baby's learning to crawl and cutting teeth. Rowdy's cutting teeth. And we've had one fun thing after another happen today. One of those things being Howie can get into the pantry, and he did, and he snuck off. He's almost 3, and he snuck off with a box of instant chocolate pudding. And I was washing dishes, and Cheyenne looked into the room. She was rocking the baby to sleep. She looked into the room, and Rowdy was sitting on the floor, and Howie was sprinkling chocolate pudding over his head. So we have that mess,
And they're currently spilling
and we've
syrup.
had other things. We've had chili spilled today before we could get it cleaned up. Howie spilled his chili, and Rowdy wasn't paying any attention and walked right through it. So I've got little chili footprints on my carpet, and we're working through all of that. But you know, that's just the season of life that we're in. We realize that there's messes. We realize that they're little bitty boys, and we can't get this time back. And I, being the mama of their daddy, I know what he was like when he was little. Now, Cheyenne, she swears that she was not this way at all. And Blade was definitely all boy. So we are enjoying a season of having 2 littles on the move, and one more quickly coming up on them. Going to be a mover as well. So if you've been with us for a while, you know the story. But we have some new subscribers, and with this being the eve of Rowdy's birthday, we just wanted to go back a little bit. And when Rowdy was born, you had a typical pregnancy with him, right? When Rowdy was born, or when she was carrying Rowdy, she had a typical pregnancy. No issues, no trouble, no anything really. And when Howie was born, she had him 6 weeks early, right? And he spent time in the NICU at St. Francis in Tulsa, and he had jaundice, but didn't really have a whole lot of other issues, just needed to get a little bit stronger with his breathing. And so when she carried Rowdy, she carried him further to
36. It's 36 weeks when I had him. Oh. I was 36 weeks pregnant when I had him.
And she, that day was a typical day, no issues, no problems. And then, of course, that evening when everybody was getting quiet down for the evening, she decided it was time to have Rowdy. And 36 weeks was good. We didn't expect any kind of complications. And she went in to have him. And when he was born, they, I don't know if they immediately realized there was an issue with him.
they didn't realize the issue that he had at the moment. He had an issue. I, to this day, don't even know what he looked like as a newborn baby. They took him from me and they put him on those little heating beds, and then they said, we're going to take him to the nursery. They took him to the nursery. They come back, and I had not delivered my placenta yet.
So there was complications. At first, Blake called me. I was here with Howie, who was a little baby at the time. And Blake called me, and he was worried, wanting me to pray because they were having trouble with Cheyenne. And it was a scary thing for him being up there by himself with... You can understand. A lot of you have probably been through it. He didn't know what in the world. They were just starting to lift some of the restrictions they had during the pandemic. They're still kind of carrying on, and so very restricted on who could be at the hospital with her. And at that time, it was just Blade. And so young people, as they were, facing something that they didn't understand, he was really, really scared and called and wanted me to pray. And she came through it okay, but then the hospital quickly realized that there were things wrong with Rowdy that they couldn't take care of, that they were not equipped for.
Well, actually, they did. We did not know that he was as sick as he was until we got to the NICU.
But they did take him there because of his breathing, right?
They told me that they were going to send him. The hospital I delivered at told me they were going to send him to Tulsa for respiratory distress.
Okay. So he was airlifted to the hospital. Cheyenne went later.
I went later. Blade, they stuck me in a recovery room for 2 or 4 hours. I can't remember. And then they let me go after they realized that I wasn't going to, they was afraid I was going to hemorrhage. They were afraid of.
So you were able to go on
so they let me go. I come here, packed a bag, and when I got to the hospital was the first time I heard what I had heard, what they had told me.
When I went to St. Francis, to the NICU with the kids, they allowed, there was just a few people that they allowed.
Yeah.
They had to make a list of people, and they're very restrictive there for the privacy and for the protection of the patients. They're dealing with children. Very, very good hospital, in our opinion. Mm-hmm. And so I went with the kids, and we went in. I went in with the kids, and it wasn't too long, and this doctor came in. The NICU doctor, wonderful, wonderful doctor, very, very bright. She came in and she shut the sliding door behind her, which is usually not a very good. It's usually not a very good sign. I started praying, and really, really, over Rowdy, over Blade and Cheyenne, and trying to listen to the doctor as well as she explained all these things, because he had been in there. I didn't go up with the kids until the next day, when they had all of the equipment hooked to him. And you'll see some pictures here as Cheyenne puts them up. He was on 14 different medications. They had 14 different medications pumping through his little body. Newborn baby. They had him on all kinds of things, and maybe you can elaborate on that.
They had him on an oscillator. They had him on a ventilator. I'm trying to remember all those. The oscillator, the ventilator.
They did for sure have him on a paralytic. So he was immobile 100%. Had him on fentanyl, a bunch of different medications that I can't even pronounce.
They had him on blood pressure medicine.
They had him on, there was IV poles in there with all kinds of stuff. She can show you what it looked like. And his room wasn't really, really big to begin with, and they had all this equipment, all of these things. You couldn't touch him. They didn't want you to really talk in his room because he didn't like it. They didn't want him to be stimulated at all. And so I really and truly, in my heart of hearts, I thought he's not going to make it. I didn't think that the Lord wasn't able to keep him. I just didn't know if he was going to live.
The doctor, when I first showed up, the very first thing she said to me when me and Blade went up there by ourselves was, "I've never seen a baby so sick, and I don't know that he'll make it." And I didn't have anything to say. I didn't know what to say because I had no idea. And she said, "But I'll do what I can." She said, "I'll do everything I can to find out what is going on."
And they did. And he was very, very sick for, how many days were we in the hospital?
21 or 22.
21 or 22 days in the hospital. And he was so swollen that his little skin was translucent. And of course, if you've been with us very long, you know the entire story and how we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House, which is just right there close to the hospital. Wonderful, wonderful place. We didn't have to worry about anything. We didn't have to worry about transportation if we had needed transportation, but we had our vehicle there and we were able to come back and forth. It's an excellent facility, allowing the parents to get a little bit of rest, to take a shower. Their close contact with the hospital can get you right back over there if the need arose. Thankfully, it wasn't too long and he began to improve. Not the first few days, not the first couple of weeks, but he began to make some progress. For all of that, we're thankful that the Lord blessed him and healed his little body. They were able to begin to wean him off of all of the things. Now, he was addicted to fentanyl, and his doctor told Cheyenne, said,
"I'm sorry I've made your son a druggie."
Yeah, I mean, he was addicted to it, and so he had to be weaned off of it very, very, very slowly. We had we had a lot of good nurses. Mm-hmm. We had one that just absolutely was wonderful. We really connected with her, and we were just really thankful that we had access to that hospital, that facility. And then it came time and we got to bring Rowdy home, and we watched him grow and meet all these different milestones and all these things. And then almost to his first birthday, we had another incident with Rowdy. And Cheyenne and I had been shopping, getting our groceries and running some different errands. And when we got home, it was hot summertime. Hot, just probably hot as it is today, or maybe even hotter. It was really, really hot and humid. And Rowdy was drinking, he drank his sippy cup and he wanted another, and we were giving him water. We didn't give him soda or anything like that. It was water that he was drinking and was doing okay. We had the air conditioner on in the truck, and we got home, and we were home probably 20 minutes or so, and he wasn't walking yet. But he was a little bit fussy, and he crawled over to me, and I picked him up and was rocking him, and was giving him a little bit more water in his sippy cup. And I happened to look at him, and I could just tell by the way I was looking at him, or the way he was looking, that things weren't right. And so I picked him up and was looking at him and trying to get him to look at me, and I told Cheyenne, I said, something's not right. And immediately, he was off. He wouldn't look you in the eye. He wouldn't do anything. And so Cheyenne, she Cheyenne called 911, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't try to look up and see, what we could do or anything like that. And one reason that we did that was because, so Cheyenne called 911, and we thought that we might, at first I asked her to run a lukewarm bath. And the reason I did that was because one of my brothers, when he was little, he would have febrile seizures. And one of the things that they did several trips to the hospital and spinal taps and all the different tests that they ran on him determined that it was febrile seizures. And they told my mom and dad that when his fever would spike, to do a lukewarm bath. And Rowdy was very, very hot, had a really high temperature. And so Blade was like, forget the bath, call 911. And so Cheyenne called them. They had her on the phone, and they were basically kind of guiding her and asking her questions and stuff. I was holding Rowdy, and he began to kind of spit up and shake. And I was holding him over to try to keep him from swallowing anything. And the ambulance got here really, really quick.
Yeah.
They were really quick. And they came in, and they assessed him in here, and then they took him out. And our pastor and his daughter got here, like, they were here quick too. We were thankful for that, because they kind of helped. They took Cheyenne and Rowdy out into the ambulance and started working on him out there. And they thought that he was having some kind of seizure. And then I'll let her, because this is where I wasn't with them. I was in here with Howie, and Cheyenne was in the ambulance with the baby. So
when they took him out there, they got in there, and they told me they was going to try to run an IV. So they tried to run an IV in his arm, and they couldn't get it, because he was just, there was nothing. And so they asked me if I cared. Go get you a blanket. Go get the one off your bed. They asked me if I cared if they tried to put an IV in his head. And I said no, but I told him I didn't want to be in there when they did it. So I got out of the ambulance and stood outside. So I got out of the ambulance and let them do what they was doing. And I think I stood out there for probably 15 minutes. And then they let me come back in there, and what had happened was, and I don't remember what they called it. I stood outside for about 15 minutes of the ambulance, and they told me I could come back in there. And they had put the IV in, I don't remember the word that they used, in his knee, in the side of it. And he said, the ambulance man told me that he did not think that it was a seizure. He told me that it was tremors, is what they told me. So they had me, because they didn't think that it was a seizure, they had me put him in his car seat. So I put him in his car seat, and they asked me where I wanted to go, and I said, if y'all think that he can make it, I want to take him all the way to Tulsa, to the Children's Hospital. And so he said, okay. He said, we'll do what we can. So we took off, and about halfway to Muskogee, so probably 15 minutes from the house, his oxygen and his heart rate started dropping. And he told me, he said, do you mind if we stop at Muskogee to get his seizures under control? Because that's when the guy back there with me realized that that's what was going on. It wasn't what he thought it was. So he said, do you mind if we stop at Muskogee and get this under control? He said his heart rate, it won't stay up. So I was like, yeah. So we stopped, and that was the longest walk to an ER I've ever taken. The walk from the ambulance in the back where they parked to the ER was the longest walk. Well, what felt like the longest walk. So we got back there. The doctor immediately walked up to me, and the doctor immediately walked out, and there was probably 10 nurses. If you've ever been in an ER room, they're not very big, but there was about 10 of them, 10 nurses and the doctor in there with him. And he turned around and he looked at me. He said, this is most definitely a seizure. He said, do you know what caused it? And I said, no idea. He said, does he have any history? I said, not at all. And so he said, I'm going to give him, I don't know what they called it, some seizure medicine. He said, and I'll see if I can get it to stop. They gave him a round of seizure medicine. He stopped, and they ran all kinds of blood tests. And I want to say that was when the first time they had told me that his blood sugar dropped. So they got his seizure to stop, and he was out there talking to me, and he walked from, because I was just outside of his room sitting against the wall because there wasn't any room for me to sit. And I wanted them to be able to do what they was doing. And I had one of the nurses sitting there beside me talking to me. Well, the doctor walked up and started talking to me, and no more than he got to me to say a few words, he started down he started seizing again. So they pushed another round of medicine in him. And we were there for probably 45 minutes, and they decided that they thought that he was okay enough to send him on to Tulsa. So we went on to Tulsa, and when I got to Tulsa, they took him, put him in a room, and I sat out in the lobby. The little doctor, I don't know, I could hardly understand what she was saying, but she didn't know what had happened, and as far as I knew, all it was a seizure. So we got there, they put him in the room, she came out and said, we're going to put him together, get him set in his room, and I'll come back out and get you. Well, I was out in the lobby. Bub, stop. You're going to have to go sit somewhere. I was out in the lobby by myself for probably an hour and a half at least. And she come back in there, she come out there, and she said,
Bubby, quit.
Bubba, stop.
You're in your underwear. You cannot be on film.
She come.
YouTube.
So she come back in there, she come back to the lobby, and she got me, she said, you can come in there. Well, when I walked into his room, just like the first time when he was born, everything I saw was nothing that I expected. They had him on a ventilator, they had a feeding tube in him, the IV in him, and I had no idea what was going on until the next morning. The day doctor come in, and she said, he has pneumonia. And I was like, what? I was so confused. I was like, how? And what had happened was, because those EMTs, and I'm not blaming, they didn't know. Because the EMTs had stuck him in, when they stuck him in had me put him in his car seat, he aspirated some of the stuff that he was spitting up, and it got in his lungs, and it set up and caused bacterial pneumonia. And the first couple of days was real slow. He wasn't getting any worse, but he wasn't getting any better. And it was kind of a standstill for a few days. And it come the third or fourth night that we were there, and they were able to they had already started turning down his deal. They had done the first couple of days, they had done a brain study to make sure that there wasn't any active seizure activity, and there hadn't been. And so they wasn't really sure what had caused it. So they did blood work, they did all the tests, and come back he had the adenovirus and the rhinovirus, which at the time I had no idea what either one of them were. And they're like, the adenovirus is what caused him to have the fever, and it's like a cold almost. And so after a couple days of them doing the brain study and the blood work, finding out that he had adenovirus, he didn't like the ventilator. So they got it down to, I can't really remember, probably it was somewhere between 40 and 30%. I can't really remember. They were working on weaning him off of it. And one of the nurses come in, and she said he doesn't want it anymore. She said, I think that he's ready to come off of it. And that was a night nurse. Well, no, that was his day nurse. The night nurse come back in and said, no, he's not ready for it. And so I didn't know. He's moving it. Quit, Howie.
Quit, baby.
So I didn't know, and so I was just going off what the doctor was telling me. Well, night 5, I slept in the chair, and I had that nurse again that did not want to take him off the ventilator yet, and the doctor that was on call had a resident with him, and so the resident was who had been in my room most of the night, informing me of what was going on and what their plan was. And so that night, after they told me, maybe tomorrow we'll take him off the ventilator, we're not sure. Sit down, Bubba. So I went to sleep. Blade was asleep on the little couch bed thing that they give you to sleep on, which, if any of you know, it's not very big. And I slept in the chair right beside his bed. And I got woke up at 3 o'clock, probably close to 3 o'clock on the dot. And he woke me up. He said, "Hey, we're gonna take this ventilator off of him." He said he's pulled it halfway out. He said he doesn't want it anymore. He said, worst comes to worst, we'll have to re-intubate him. And so I was like, okay. Because, I mean, he didn't want it. He'd been fighting it. And so we were like, okay. So they took it out. And from that point forward, he did great. He come out of it. When he woke up, you could tell that he was extremely tired. He was ready, and he was ready to come home. He didn't want to be there anymore. And from that evening until the day that we left, every single time a nurse walked into the door, he would run as far as he could to the corner of his bed or crawl. He wasn't walking yet, so he crawled, and he'd just cry. And so they moved us to. The next day, they moved us to the children's, like the basic floor, because he had been in the pediatric intensive care. They moved him to a regular floor, and they did. That's when we started trying to get him to eat again, because they had taken him off regular food and put him on formula because of him being intubated. So we started working on giving him regular food, and he really didn't want to eat, and so we gave him. I gave him formula as long as he wanted it, until they got to a point where they were like, he's gonna have to eat something before he can go home. So then I started giving him mashed potato. Blade would go get mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes was the one thing that he would eat with the least of problems. And then one morning we woke up and his blood sugar dropped, so they told me that I needed to get that up.
So with his short little life, there's been a couple of times that he's had to stay in the hospital, very, very sick and very under with medications and all these different things, some serious things. And I know that some of you probably have similar stories where you've had family members that have been really sick in the hospital for a long time. But we wanted to tell those things today, not to say, oh, those poor people or anything like that. We wanted to tell those things today to celebrate Rowdy, because tomorrow he's 2 years old. And Cheyenne, again, will be putting some pictures up to show that he's definitely better today than he was then. He does have a couple little issues that we're trying to take care of now. He has low serotonin levels. They don't really know what that is. They thought at first that he was low on his iron, that he was anemic. But they had blood tests done. He's good with that. But his serotonin levels are like a 2, and they're supposed to be in their 30s. So we're working on that, changing his diet. He's not a very picky baby. He will eat vegetables. I can get him usually to try most things, but now he's going through a yuck phase where he wasn't. Now everything is yuck. And that's probably just where he's at in life. But we're very thankful that we still have him. He is a joy. He is a Meemaw's baby, and I can't deny that. We're best buddies, and Mama and Daddy are fortunate to have him and blessed by him, and we just wanted to say happy birthday to him, and let you guys know that this little guy has been a trooper. He has started out rocky, and we are expecting great and mighty things from him. I think they probably amply named him Rowdy, and he is every bit living up to his name. So we hope you enjoy the pictures of him. You can see where he started to where he is now, and we are blessed, wouldn't you say? Blessed beyond measure to have our little monkey. He's actually sitting at my feet, but his little face is covered with chocolate and all kinds of things that he's been. When I tell you these little boogers have been little boogers today, I'm not stretching it at all. And so anyway, happy birthday, Rowdy. And he is a blessing to us. Okay, guys, until next time, this is Josie and Cheyenne, and sharing this story about our little baby booger bear. And as usual, guys, I love you. I really do. Keep looking well to the ways of your household. And until next time, we're gone.